Hello everyone and welcome to another live video in my Facebook group, the Portrait Photographer's Resource. For those of you who are not watching live and you may be watching this at a later time on my YouTube channel or somewhere else, make sure you join my group so you can tune into these live videos and ask questions. If you guys are watching live, thank you so much for tuning in, and I just want to say thank you for making this group so far so awesome. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'm going to be monitoring them on the monitor to my right. And at the end of the video, I'm going to go ahead and try to answer them as best as I can. So tonight's topic is how to get sponsored in the photography industry. And joining me is my co-host, Liam Neeson. Say hi, Liam. Yes, he is very engaged. Basically, I want to first start out by saying that yes, I am a sponsored photography in the industry. You may know me as an ambassador for MagMod, CG Pro Prints, or now Pro Prints, Geekoto, and a few others. So I'm certainly well versed in this part of the industry, but I will not go and claim and say as far as I won't say I'm a complete expert on the topic. But I do want to share with you some insight and my experiences within this part of the industry. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and switch over my monitor here so you can see my screen. Perfect. The topic again is how to get sponsored in the photo industry. So maybe you've been, successful for a while and you're looking to take it to that next step. Maybe you want to become an educator. Whatever the case may be, there are lots of reasons as to why you might want to be a sponsored photographer. So let's just jump into it. So the first question you have to ask yourself is, why do you want to be sponsored? How is it going to benefit you? So, as I mentioned, I've been backed by a couple companies for a few years now, and even before I was in the photography industry, I actually have been sponsored in different industries as well, and I see a lot of similarities across the board as to maybe why someone would want to be sponsored. One other thing I want to mention too is a lot of these slides I've put together tonight have been not only information that I've gathered from my personal experiences, but also consulting with some of my sponsors that have given me some advice on things that they are willing to share with you too. So one thing I have noticed through my experience, uh, in the professional world is there are a lot of reasons why you might want to be sponsored, but probably the number one thing I see is people want free stuff. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to be sponsored simply for that reason, you are in it for the wrong reasons, simply put. And not only that, but you're wasting your time, right? So let me kind of elaborate on what I mean there. Now, getting free stuff is obviously a perk, right? Like I'm not gonna lie, as a Magmod ambassador, as Geekoto ambassador, they do hook me up from time to time with free equipment, but I'm not in it for that reason, right? Um, so let me explain to you why, okay? Let's say, for example, this isn't the case, but let's say, for example, Geekoto gives me $5,000 a year in a monthly allowance, right, on equipment. That's great. That seems like a lot, but think about how much time I have to invest in that relationship to get that level, to get that amount a year. It's a lot. It's going to be a lot, and it's going to be the same thing for lots of other companies as well. So that investment of time I could potentially put towards my own business. So for example, like if it was $5,000, that's one wedding for me, as opposed to putting in hours and hours and hours of work getting these sponsorships. So if you're doing it just for the gear, again, it's not really worth your time. So that's just something I want to make clear right off the bat. Um, so just kind of going through my notes here. Uh, okay, so if you are going to be pursuing a sponsorship, again, it needs to be worth not only your time, but it needs to be mutually beneficial for both you and the sponsor. Um, so For me at least, I enjoy sponsorships, or at least I be enjoying being sponsored because I want to use it as a platform to build relationships and help with cross promotion, right? I help promote their products. They help promote me as an educator, which in turn, helps or allows me to reach more people to educate in the photo industry. So moving on, the next question I want you guys to ask yourself before I go over a few steps on how to actually get sponsored is you need to understand, or better yet, you need to ask yourself the question, why does someone want to sponsor you? And this isn't the situation, and this isn't always the situation, this isn't always the case, but there's one really simple reason. It's money, right? At the end of the day, these companies that you want to sponsor you, they're running businesses, right? They want you to make money for them. They want your resources, your influence, and your talents to make the money. It's not a charity. I know it sounds a little harsh, but at the end of the day, they want to make money off of you. So with that in mind, what are you going to bring to the table? If you're not going to add value to these companies, they're not going to waste their time with you. Again, I know that sounds harsh, but it's the truth. They're not going to sponsor you simply because you're a good photographer. So, with that said, there are 5 steps, at least in my opinion, 5 steps that you can take to become sponsored, okay? So, number 1, and probably most obvious, is you got to be a good photographer, okay? So, I mentioned earlier that I was sponsored in other industries, and actually, about 15 years ago, I was a sponsored fisherman. I was really big in the fishing community. I owned one of the largest fishing communities before like Facebook groups were a thing in California, and I got sponsored by a company because I was a good fisherman. But what we'll jump into this a little bit later, but because I was also influential. Whenever I go to the lake and whenever I would catch fish, I did really well. I caught a lot of fish. I caught big fish. People would come up to me, "Oh, what are you using? What are you using?" And I'd say, "Oh, I'm using XYZ." So, same thing with photography industry. You have to be a good photographer. You have to offer something unique that others are attracted to. Now, do you need to be the best? Of course not. There are plenty of photographers out there who are sponsored and backed by some major companies that honestly aren't really all that special. So what they bring to the table is something else, which we'll dive into in a little bit here. So step 2, and probably in all honesty, the most important, is you need to have influence in the industry, right? So one way that you can have an influence over the community and get noticed is by doing a couple things. So for starters, one of the great ways to actually get influence or basically get yourself known is by speaking at conferences. So ClickCon, WPPI, Imaging USA, Photo Plus, all basically conferences around the country. If you can get into those, and you're gonna be put in front of other photographers. So that's one way to get an influence in the industry. I got my speaking start at WPPI. I was a speaker, or excuse me, I was an attendee for years. And then eventually, once I built my business, once I became more confident in my skills, I started kind of dabbling as a speaker. I actually practiced speaking within just a few local groups here in northern Colorado. So I actually would offer free seminars just to get my foot in the door, just to get comfortable speaking in front of a big audience. And then once I felt like I was ready, I started applying to WPPI, and that's how I got my start there. So other ways, start a YouTube channel, have a strong social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Admittedly, TikTok is not one I've utilized yet, but it is on the to-do list. So let me just really quickly share with you guys my experience. So or at least my experience with how I became a Magmod ambassador, okay? This is how I was able to become influential in that community. So Magmod used to they don't do anymore, but they used to host these monthly photo contests where The winner, there was a theme, and then the winners would receive like a gift card. I think I won, or at least I didn't know if I didn't win, but I placed in at least three or four of them, right? That was a great way for me to get noticed. So I started building, getting some fans, so to speak, in that community simply because I was winning those contests, and also because I was posting regularly in that group. I started to get influential, I started to get noticed, and eventually I became an ambassador. Um, I'll jump in, I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second here. So step three, pick a company you believe in and you want to show excitement. So what I mean by that is you really want to be passionate about these companies that you're trying to go after. So you shouldn't just basically become an ambassador or seek out an ambassadorship or sponsorship from any company, right? Don't cold call, don't cold email companies simply hoping, yeah, maybe they'll want to sponsor me. There's an expression for that. It's called, throwing shit on a wall and seeing what sticks. You can't do that here. That's a great way to be turned down. So again, back to the MagMod thing. I was a hardcore user of MagMod products for years before I eventually pursued an ambassadorship with them. Actually, I can't remember if they initially reached out to me, but then I was kind of pushing and pushing to make it happen, and eventually, obviously, it did. Um, so you really have to believe in the products you're using, right? Because people can read you like a book. If you're trying to sell something that you don't believe in, it's going to be bad for everyone and everyone will pick up on it. It's the same thing about being a photographer in your own business. If you don't believe in your own product and you're not passionate about it, people are going to figure that out really quick. So a couple other notes on them is, you also want to, again, you want to use companies that you're already using and you want to show that you are a regular customer. So, like for example, if you going back, let's actually use Geekoto as an example, right? Before they approached me for a sponsorship, I was using their products. I was a user. I was a believer. I purchased quite a bit of their flashes, and I still use them to this day because they're awesome, and I absolutely love using them. So, moving on. You guys are blowing up the chat, by the way. I really appreciate it. I'm going to get to all these comments here as soon as I'm done with this. So, if you do have questions, please let me know and I'll get to them. Okay, so step four is to build and maintain relationships. And what I mean by that is by specifically building and maintaining these relationships with the people in charge at these companies. So before you even bring up the idea or throw it out there in the universe that you want to be sponsored by these companies, you need to earn their trust and show them that you are only bringing good intentions, right? It's very, again, kind of what I talked about earlier. It's very easy for people to pick up bullshit. Okay, just being real. So the best way you can do this by building these relationships is by just making yourself known, have a presence, show that you are a team player, go to trade shows and hang out at their booth a lot. Send them emails regularly with content that you've created using their products. Tag them on Instagram whenever you post a photo using like one of their flash units, for example. Um, go in Facebook groups. Hey, I made this photo using Geek Kodo flashes. They're awesome. Whatever the case may be. Don't be overly salesy, but create some fabulous content and show people and educate people that you're making this content with these specific products. Um, so let me give you an example really quick of a bad thing to do, okay? I mentioned earlier that, cold calling or cold emailing companies is a bad idea, and that absolutely is, okay? If you just email someone and say, hey, I like your products, like, will you sponsor me? Or will you give me free stuff? 99 out of 100 times, they're gonna say no. So going back to getting the whole noticed thing, let me just put this in perspective a little bit, okay? And I hope this is okay that I'm sharing this information with everyone. But Hiram is from Geekoto. He's kind of one of the faces of the company, and he was telling me the other day when I was putting together some content for this video. He was telling me that on average, Geekoda receives between 10 and 15 emails a day from people asking for either whether it's free stuff or to be sponsored, whatever the case may be. And at their highest, they received 170 inquiries in 1 week. So that just goes to show that you really need to stand out. And if you are going to reach out to someone asking for an ambassadorship or sponsorship, they need to know who you are first. Otherwise, there's a very good chance it's not going to work. Okay, let's see here. Moving on to what I call step 4.5 or 4.5. Because this isn't enough to be a slide on its own, but I do think it's really important. And that's simply don't be an asshole. Okay? You need to be a good person. And this is not only something that a personal philosophy of mine that I bring into just my professional career, but just in my personal life. I really feel like that if you're a good person, and you're showing people that you're a good person and that you have the best intentions, it's going to bring you a long way. These companies that are looking for people to sponsor, they want someone with integrity, someone who's going to someone who's going to represent their company well. Okay? Be authentic, be genuine, and again, show integrity. Build real friendships with these people because it's going to get you a lot farther in life and professionally. And last but certainly not least, if you haven't, after you've done all these steps and you haven't been approached by now, simply ask this company, hey, what does it take to be an ambassador, right? So one of my goals, and the reason I say this is because I am almost putting this out in the universe to hold myself accountable, right? One of my goals is at one point, I would love to be sponsored by Nikon. Now, to be a Nikon ambassador is massive. Like, it takes years, and it takes years. And I recently, when I was at WPPI, I have a friend or a colleague there who's a rep, and I straight up asked him, I'm like, hey, what does it take to be an ambassador? I wasn't saying, hey, can I be an ambassador? Or, hey, can I have free stuff? I just put it out there in the universe and I said, hey, this is a goal of mine. This is something I would love to achieve in the future. What can I do to be an ambassador? If you approach it in this way, I guarantee you're going to get a very good response. And, if a company just kind of blows you off and they don't really even give you the time of day when you ask a simple question like this, then are they really worth your time? But anyway, so those are the 5 things that are the 5 steps I recommend that you take to become an ambassador or to become sponsored by a photography company. Again, I'm certainly not the absolute expert on this. I'm just sharing with you all my personal experiences on this subject and what has worked for me and what has been successful for me. So with that said, we got some comments here. I'm going to go ahead and try to read through these and see what you guys are saying. So let's see here. Couple of I'm only getting a few comments. So let me see if I can refresh this page because it says 25, but I can only see a few. Okay, so Chelsea Gardner is asking, what did he say you need to do to become a Nikon ambassador? I won't reveal everything, but I will say that, oops, sorry, I moved my camera here. I will say basically what I shared in this video, and that is simply just by having a presence in the industry. Let's see what else here. Sandra is asking, how did you begin education in the photography world? Also, how did you find other photographers to join your Facebook education groups? Because I feel like you can't share on most photography pages. I'm not really understanding the second part of that completely, but the first part, as far as how I began my education in the photography world, is simply kind of what I shared earlier. I got to a point where I really wanted to share what I've learned because I absolutely love teaching. So I started out on a really micro level. I started hosting like I contacted like a couple local churches in my area. I said, hey, I would love to give a free photography seminar. on this day. Is that something I could do? And the response was great, and I was able to get my foot in the door that way, just basically practicing speaking in front of others. And just once I felt more comfortable with that, then that's when I approached WPPI and applied to be a speaker. So Nicole's asking, when creating product content, does it have to be videos? Oh, that's actually a very, very good question. And this answer is
We'll say
no.
they do not.
Basically,
What I shared
one
in this
second
video.
here. And that is simply just by
Uh,
having a presence in the. Okay, there we go. I got the comments pulled up bigger now. So, no, absolutely not. It doesn't have to just be videos. It can be blog posts. It can be just simply posting in Facebook groups. Like I said, the MagMod community has 90,000 people in that group. So there's a lot of photographers in there. So I would create regular content in there, just posting photos of from weddings that I shot, lighting diagrams, all of that. So that's all content that can go a very long way beyond just videos. Okay, let's see here. So Mario is saying, or he said, sponsored equals more business. Um, I'm not sure if that's a question. It's what it sounds like, but um, no, not really. No, I mean more business maybe for the education side of things. So, for example, like for me, for promoting my workshops, absolutely, yeah. Because again, I'm building these relationships with these sponsors or these companies, and I would hope that as I promote their products and share their products, they're gonna send the love back a little bit and share and promote my workshop. So yeah, I mean my workshops aren't free, so I do, in the end, yeah, it is more business. But as far as like your actual clients, like my wedding clients, they don't care. They don't care if I'm sponsored by XYZ company or whatever. So that's a yes and no answer. Okay, going through. Have I ever had companies reach out to you that you didn't want, and why? Yes, I have. I have had companies that have reached out to me offering me ambassadorships or sponsorships, whatever you want to call it. Um, and every company that has reached out to me have been great companies, but ultimately I turned them down either because I'm already too busy. It was a product I wasn't using, and I just didn't feel right promoting a product that I wasn't using. Uh, or maybe the fact that I just didn't believe in them. So I hope that answers your question. But yes, I have had companies that have approached me, and I have turned some down. Let's see here. I think that might be it. No, we got a couple more questions. When posting on Instagram, is there ever too much? As in, when you're tagging companies, does it ever look bad if you tag them too much? Um, to be quite honest, while I do have a decent following on Instagram, I'm certainly not an authority on it. Um, but I also don't post a ton on Instagram. Like on average, I would say I maybe post once a week, which I know isn't a lot. But I would say if I had to guess, yeah, there is probably too much, for sure. You want to maintain, a little bit of a healthy balance, I would think. Don't just tag someone to tag someone, but yeah. Would you agree, Liam? Yeah, Liam Neeson agrees. Okay. Another question from Sandra. When you are an ambassador, do they have requirements on how often you have to post, what you have to post, or like how often people use your uh, promo code through them? Um, some do, yeah, absolutely. Some do have requirements. Some are a little stricter, some are a little looser. Just kind of depends on the company. Colby is asking, you say try to get sponsored by brands you believe in. My question is, how do you originally end up choosing one brand over another? That is actually a really good question. And simply put, I've never really had. Well, that's not true. I've had a couple times where I've been offered a sponsorship by two competing companies, and ultimately I just went with the one who I felt lined, lined up with my vision a little bit better. If I know it's kind of a vague answer, and I'm not going to go into detail like on those specific situations here, but that I think that kind of answers your question. James is asking, do companies ever ask you for opinions on photographers you would recommend to be sponsored? Yes. Oh yes. All the frickin' time. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna keep this as vague as possible. But yes, I've been asked. I got asked once uh, for the opinion on another photographer. I gave my honest feedback as diplomatically and as politely as I could. But I did essentially warn him, hey, you are taking a risk going with this person. I was very diplomatic about it. Long story short, this photographer ended up burning this company. That's all I'm gonna say. Nicole is asking, should I tag every Instagram photo with the products I use? Um, I do. Yeah, I do. But you don't have to. Okay. So, looks like I got through all the questions, but I'm gonna hang out for a couple more minutes here on live, just in case you guys do have any more that you want to ask me right now. But uh, yeah, did you guys what do you guys think? Was this helpful? Did you learn anything? Was it worth your time? I know this was something I just put together very quickly, and the reason why I did put it together is because one of our members did ask us or asked me, I should say, what it takes to be an ambassador for companies. That's why I put this together. And just as a reminder, if you have not already, please submit some photos or a photo to the live image critique that I'm doing with Esteban Gil at the end of this month. It's going to be awesome. Okay, here we go. So Melissa's saying Geekoda told me WPPI to start tagging them so they could see our work. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome because they want to see your work. Tag if you want to be sponsored by someone, you got to share your content. Kelly again is asking, can we get a more specific answer to Sandra's question, bouncing off that will they drop you if you don't post enough? Oh, I missed that part. I'm sorry. Um, yeah, definitely. I mean, but it also depends on the terms of the contract that you sign with these companies. So if you have a contract with a company and you don't fulfill the terms of that contract, absolutely, they're gonna drop you. Um, just like anything else in life. Uh, Joel Harris says, thanks, Sean. Tremendous help. You're welcome. Nicole says, very helpful. Thank you. Sandra says, thank you. John Hawking is asking, do you ever feel that you cannot use another company's equipment in public since you are sponsored by a certain company? That's actually a very good question. And I go back and forth a little bit on that for sure, but the short answer is yeah, I do. But it also depends, right? So, and this is what I mean by that, right? Going back to the MagMod thing, I only use MagMod products not because I feel like I'm obligated to, but because I feel like they're the best for what they are, right? So, I was stoked when I became a Magmon ambassador because I firmly believed in their product and I had a strong connection with their product. So I had no problem strictly just using their stuff. Now, with that said, like this isn't the case now, but a couple years ago when they were only offering, like the MagSphere is their largest diffuser, there were certain situations where I would need to use a softbox or an umbrella, and because of that, I mean, obviously, it's gonna be fine with me using someone else's or competing company's product. Now that they have soft boxes, I don't really have the need for that anymore. But there are certain situations actually where, for example, let's say I'm doing like a huge like family portrait inside, and I need to light all of them. I have like a 72-inch softbox for that situation. Do I feel bad not using MagMod's 40 or 42-inch softbox in that situation? No. But I use their product so much that I don't really feel bad about using the competitors. So I hope that kind of answers the question. Let's see here. Looks like that's all. I think that's it. Unless you guys had any more questions for me. But yeah, how long have we been live for? We've been live for, oh wow, 30 minutes already. Jeez, that's awesome. Oh, Chelsea, by the way, thank you for complimenting the jacket. I actually bought this in in Vegas at WPPI. So it's lamb leather. Matt, Matt. It's my lamb expression. So cool deal, guys. I want to thank you so much for joining in. Uh, if you liked this video, please give me some feedback. Let me know what you thought. And again, this whole video was created because of someone's suggestion in this group, because of someone's question. So if you have a topic maybe that you would like me to do another one of these live videos on, I would absolutely love to do it. This time of year is when I actually have time to do stuff like this. Because as you all know, I'm a wedding photographer and my busy season is basically May through October. So this time of year, I have a lot more disposable time to do these educational videos. So again, if you have something that you would like me to talk about, please let me know. Rock and roll. Thanks, Sean. You're welcome. I am again, very thankful you guys are all here. Thank you so much for your support. And if you guys have any more questions, please let me know in the comments and I'll get back to them at a later time. So appreciate you all. We'll be in touch soon. Bye bye.